Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 197, Indiana Jones. We're taking a look back, folks. We are looking back at this iconic character, first introduced to us literally 42 years ago tonight. At least in some regions of the country, it may have been a little earlier. I think it was actually June 12th. But for us, it was June 30th. With me tonight to discuss this monumental movie character is my friend, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Who are you calling a character?
Hey, Ross, how's it going?
It's going all right, Roy. I made it.
You made it. Great to see you. We got our energy. We got our mojo going. We actually have the internet going. We are set. We are on course, and we are primed.
You're primed. Yes.
Put your seatbelts on, folks. One thing I am going to ask before we even get started, and then I'm going to welcome the folks that are joining us out there, is that we are going to obviously be talking about Indiana Jones tonight, but just for the sake of respecting everybody that's out there, whether you're watching live or maybe folks will be catching this on the video on the repeat, I would just ask that if you have seen Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny, to please not discuss it tonight in the chat section and make any comments, because we want this to be spoiler free out of respect of the folks that are out there. There's nothing worse than, looking forward to a movie or anticipating a movie, and then what happens is you inadvertently read something because somebody, posts something. So I'm just going to ask that we do that. We are going to be talking about the 4 movies and probably some more than others, but the concentration is going to be there. We definitely acknowledge that the film was released and the official release date is today, which is super cool, but just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. Or as I would. Well, yes. No.
Is the lecture over?
No. Anyway.
Why don't you just do it the way I would and say, if you spoil it, I'm going to burn your house down? Are we not allowed to say
suits
that?
Are circling. The suits are out there, Ross. The suits are out there. Anyway, thank you, folks, for that. I just wanted to put that message out there in a nice manner. And I want to welcome our folks that are joining us. I see Martin is joining us from New York. Martin, welcome. Great to see you out there. Colin is also joining us. Colin, welcome to the show. Jeff Rubel is joining us from out west. Jeff, welcome. I also see Lou is joining us from Rhode Island. Welcome, Lou. Good to see you there. The Hague is out there. He's joining us from Pennsylvania. Welcome, John. Ken Hutchins is out there. Welcome, Ken. He's saying, just wait until Indy's episode 197.
Yeah.
Hey, and I see Mark is joining us. Mark, welcome to the show. My work friend, Mark. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. Sue is joining us from Massachusetts. Welcome, Sue. Great to see you out there. And I also see Vince is out there. Hey, Vince. Thanks for joining tonight. Good to see you. And Vince is joining us from Stewartsville, New Jersey. Pete Fultz is also out there. Pete, welcome. Great to see you there. The Hague is commenting, and I'm going to...
Uh-oh. Well, yeah. Is he talking about the new one or the old one? Oh, I see.
Yeah, he just commented. Yeah. Saw it as a sneak preview. Opening flick was Legend of the Lone Ranger. When Raiders started, people actually started leaving. A week or so later, they probably were reading about why they left. Oh, wow. Let me see here. I just want to make sure I'm accounting for everybody. I think I am. Yeah, okay. I've welcomed everybody. When more people join us, I will welcome them as well. But yeah, let's get started. Ross.
What?
Now, we've debated about this, and what's really, really cool is that now, interesting enough, 42 years ago, that would make us what? 14? God help us.
Yeah, on the verge of our 15th birthdays. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. My last day of freshman year was on this date, June 30th in 81. And I remember your cousin, Joe Metz for the folks out there. He, everybody's signing, their yearbooks and everything. And I can't find the yearbook, but Joe signed off about the year and our friendship and everything. But then he specifically put a comment in the yearbook saying, "Looking forward to seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark tonight with the group, and it should be a lot of fun." So yeah, it's just mind blowing that
Yeah.
literally 42 years ago.
Yeah. Now there's a conflict in our memories, and you're usually pretty good about these things, uh, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I thought I saw it with you on opening night. Maybe I saw it with you the second time. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I saw it on June 12th. And the only reason I'm pretty firm on that is because I remember coming home from the movie and seeing it reviewed on the New York channels. Like
Okay.
Stuart Klein was reviewing it, and so it had just it had opened, and that's why I'm questioning.
Did you say
Uh,
Stuart Klein?
yeah, you remember him?
I do remember Stuart Klein. In fact, it's funny that you're mentioning him. He was on Channel 5, WNEW TV out in New York. And the only reason
Exactly.
why I have such a strong memory of him is, I mean, he was known for his reviews. I mean, he did not hold back. And I remember when he actually reviewed Star Trek the Motion Picture, and he pretty much destroyed it. And you know, it was just like, oh, and I videotaped that too. We had a yeah, I still may have that review, but it wasn't pleasant, and it was obviously he was not a Star Trek fan too. I mean,
Uh,
but when you said the name though, it immediately came to me.
yeah,
So, do you remember seeing a review with him reviewing
Star
Raiders of the
Trek.
Lost Ark?
Oh
No,
yeah,
Raiders.
yeah, yeah. He gave it a favorable review. I mean, almost everybody did.
Mhm.
There were a few that didn't. Um, and in fact, it's very funny to see, looking back, how a recurring comment in a lot of the reviews of the era was how exhausting it was.
Mm.
Because it was like the relentless action, this kind of thing. And you watch it now and you realize, it was such a pioneer, because now the action never stops. You go to the movies, it's like, oh my god, I'm going to throw up. You know, when's the action going to stop? Like back then, I thought it was perfectly paced, but like the critics that had been around, reviewing movies for 10 or 20 years were all like, oh my god, this is a
Yeah.
roller coaster ride. Some of them loved that. They thought it was you know a joyful summer experience, but others were like, oh my goodness, just enough already. They were used to doing like one or two set pieces in a movie,
Right.
like French Connection. You know what I mean? You got the big car chase and that kind of thing. You go to the movie and and there's kind of everything kind of goes up to a peak, but this is the peaks all the way through.
It never stops. I mean,
Yeah.
Raiders never stops. Like I'm referring it to as Raiders because it's always
Yeah.
just Raiders.
And we don't call it Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the
Mm.
stupidest title I ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Even dumber than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But
Tell
go
us how
ahead.
you really tell us how you really feel, Ross.
I don't like when they retitle stuff and make changes. We saw it. Damn it, we know it. We saw it with our own eyes. We know what it is.
I know, and
Don't try to change our collective memory.
I hate to say this, and I probably maybe have dodged that bullet, so to speak. Did they actually try to change the title to that? Were you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you're saying did they? But you know what? I've never seen it actually on a print of the film. It's possible in one of Lucas's reissues that they actually changed it, but I have seen it on the outside of the video boxes.
I
And
didn't.
you'll see when you look it up. It's like his alternate title,
Yeah,
also known as
right. Yeah, of course. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
exactly. People still call it Raiders of the Lost Ark. Nobody's calling it Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Ow! Ow!
yeah. Maybe somebody who didn't see it in the theater. Future generations might make the mistake.
Right. The Hague is saying I didn't see it with either of you. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't, John. But he does remember Stu's reviews. I had a feeling he would.
Stu's reviews. Yeah.
Stu's commenting. John has the entire indie outfit. It's very authentic and super cool. Very cool. Now,
Yeah. We had to assemble ours from scratch. You couldn't go out and get these
well,
things.
I remember Joe. Joe had you had the fedora. Joe had the
Yeah.
bush hat,
Yeah.
and Joe, was it Joe or you that had the bullwhip?
Oh, I had the whip.
You
And it was
did have.
before. Yeah, and I had to do some legwork for that. Yeah, because it was before the internet. You couldn't just find this stuff, and
Right.
and I always had a leg up with the fedoras because I had my grandfather's fedora. You know what I mean? So I didn't have to stomp around looking for an Indiana Jones hat. And I don't even know if they had authorized Indiana Jones hats at that point. It was
I
later
don't
that they did that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. But I did get all duded up for Temple of Doom, where I actually got one of my khaki shirts and ripped it all up and went to school with the arm off. And
You were such a rebel, Ross.
I look like an idiot, I'm sure. I remember when Raiders opened, I said, oh, well, maybe if I let my scruff grow for a week or something like that. But of course, it was like all, peach fuzz at that point. It's like a little part of dark. Now I let it grow and it's all white.
Well, and you remember Joe. Joe had a beard when he was like 12. I mean, and
Yeah.
he was just growing, and then he didn't shave.
Sure.
Finally shaved it. But
yeah, he's like Matt, growing beards when they're in high school.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say hi to Shari. Shari's out there saying, "Hey guys,
high school babies."
Tuning in as I walk in Pipersville, PA. You guys were in high school babies. I was in college. I saw the first movie in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. Very nice.
Yeah, but life was still full of adventure in high school.
Martin is saying bad dates. I've had a few of them in the past.
I should have brought some dates to eat on the. I'm going to make the transformation though to Dr. Jones now.
Oh, there you
go. And because this allows me to take off the glasses, so I can't see anything anymore through my glasses. So now I can actually see my notes and see the screen. Yeah. And this is not my grandfather's hat. I've got that over there. I should have picked that out. It's seen better days. It's seen a lot of adventure. Pretty rad.
Jeff Rubel saying, "Don't mince words, Ross. What do you really think?" Sorry, wrong franchise. Oh boy, the quotes are going to be starting tonight.
So now I'm the 80-year-old indie.
Yeah, there you go.
The
DVD boxes, yeah. And Brennan is saying Indy was one of the raiders. He was looter.
Yeah, absolutely. He was one of the good looters, one of the good grave robbers. But we didn't think about that back then.
Nope. Hold on one second.
And everybody looked good next to the Nazis, so.
Yeah, right.
He's a good guy. God. He punches Nazis. He's a good guy.
He was a good guy. Ken saying, I took the day off work to go to the opening of Temple of Doom.
Yeah. Did you shred your shirt? Did you shred your shirt, Ken?
I bet you didn't do that.
There you go. I would have been Pennsylvania Amico. Or if I named myself after the dog.
We named the dog Indiana.
It's Clyde Amico. Clyde was the dachshund.
God. Sue is saying, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. Oops, wrong show. Oh boy, here we go. We're starting a trend.
I remember the Mad Magazine parody of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and somebody says something I think it's in the truck chase. He says, once Jones starts killing, he can't stop, or something like that. That belongs in a museum.
There you go.
I tried to get another one of these things, and apparently they're not making them anymore. This is not the Indiana Jones hat. This is actually, another brand, but I can't find the maker anymore. Because this is kind of an all-purpose hat. I'd wear this, whether I'm walking around or if I go out to, the concert or something like that. But it's getting a little worn. Now I can only rob graves with it. So
you used to wear that hat everywhere, or your
not this particular one. Yeah, my grandfather's
hat.
I should have done that. Yeah, it's got my grandfather's hat is a hole up here now. It's worn out in the crown.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that you still have it though. Not for anything.
I know. I thought I got rid of it because I accumulated a lot of fedoras a lot of hats over the years, but I thought I got rid of it because at a point, I think moths got into them or something. But I guess I hung on my grandfather's hat.
I don't know if Joe still has his. I tend to think he doesn't, but in fact, I talked to him last night. I made a second attempt because I was trying to get him to join us last week, but he had some stuff planned and it wasn't going to work out for tonight. But I was really hoping to have had him come on the show. And what I probably should have done is what I did with John Risco that one time. I should have just, contacted him and recorded it just for like about 10 minutes, just to have him on. But next time.
Gotta get it on here, right? I can't see if it's even centered. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
It'll go off kilter when I start punching Nazis. It never falls off, though.
Russ wants to start swinging.
It never falls off, no matter what happens. No. Well, I guess at a point when he jumps under the door of the stone chamber, and it's a Temple of Doom when his hat falls off and he yanks it through.
And then he gets it through. Hey, Paul Miller's out there. Paul, welcome. Good to see you out there. He's saying
Uh,
my aunt just gave me my grandfather's park pie from Chief
pork
Levine's in
pie.
Easton. Whoa,
Yeah,
cool.
there you go. Was there any pork in it?
Uh, Randy Lee is joining us. No worries, Randy. Hey, and Liz is joining us from the UK. Welcome,
Hey,
Liz.
Liz.
Good to see you out there. Hope you're doing good. And Ken is saying a hat's not a hat till it's tilted from the
Yeah,
song Style in the movie Robin and the Seven Hoods.
yeah, yeah.
Get it right, Ross.
Well, they frequently, in the old movies have it on a tilt
Mhm.
depending on who's wearing it. Yeah, yeah.
But it's interesting though. I really didn't have a lot of buildup to this movie.
The first
Um,
one.
the first one, Raiders of the Lost
Yeah,
Ark. I knew it was coming out because Joe was talking about it a lot, but I was aware of it, but I wasn't aware of everything like behind it, and no, except with the knowledge that of course Spielberg and Lucas were involved in it, but really I didn't know much about it up until that point.
right.
So actually going to see it and the anticipation of seeing it, it was just an incredibly fun movie.
Isn't it great to not know anything about a new movie, not a franchise, but a new movie, not know anything about it, and go in and have it like be
Yeah,
a thrill to see it and to go out and feel like you saw a good movie. And how
yeah.
seldom do we get that nowadays? If you go
Well,
on Facebook, you get hammered.
yeah, and even if that's one way you get hammered, and then the other thing is if you actually go to see a movie,
Oh, the
you
trailers.
you
Yeah,
see trailers, but these are not trailers that are like 60 seconds long,
right.
designed to entice you and show you, some clips that wow, this is pretty good. I mean, hey, go see a movie now and then you get to see the previews, and these previews they are set. They've got maybe about 3 or 4 minutes of film that pretty much describes or shows,
Yeah.
the climax of the movie, all the action sequences. I mean, it really just gives a lot away, and it's such a letdown because you literally have to go to the movies, and then you have to like close your eyes and close your ears and just look the other way, and
Yeah.
make your humming sounds just so you don't get disappointed. It's
Or in the split seconds of silence between trailers, you say very loudly, "Nope," like I do. Nope, not seeing that one. Yeah,
yeah,
but the way they edit now, you really literally can see the whole movie because it's just like the
yeah,
images are like this, and they're all the same. They're all built on the same template. They were back then too, but it was different. It's not like the escalating pace and the not even music. It's sound effects in the trailers, like droning and ascending. Something is making you feel very tense. The sounds that are on the crescendo and the yeah. Anyway, Raiders. Back to the topic at hand, and knowing about not knowing anything about it. I knew about back then. Of course, no internet. Old men again. We learned everything from magazines practically, and in this
well,
case, it was not. Yeah,
just interjecting really quickly, the Hague wrote Starlog. Fantastic Films had stuff about it before it premiered. So just bridging off of your comment there, Ross. Go ahead. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
and you know what? That the other thing though is I remember when Starlog would have stuff, I wouldn't look at it.
Mm,
I get it, and I kind of like put it aside. And I wouldn't look at it until the movie opened because I was so fanatical about it. I wouldn't even look at stills from the movies before they came out, other than what would turn up in a review or something. And I remember the first time I think I read about it might have been in New Yorker Magazine. Do you remember New Yorker Magazine? It had the Q in it with
I do.
the
Yep.
listings, and I think David Denby was doing kind of a roundup of films that were coming out, and I was just so intrigued by this idea of Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I thought, oh, what is this? They're going after Noah's Ark? What's going on? The Nazis went Noah's Ark, and I didn't realize until I saw the movies. Oh, the Ark of the Covenant, of course, Ten Commandments,
Exactly.
and it was such a fun little homage, because they kind of have, it's not the identical design to the 1950s film, but we all know the Ark of the Covenant when we see it, because it's been used in those biblical epics. Oh, but I remember, nobody else knew about this movie, and I got the novelization at a point.
Oh,
And it's not a really great shot of Harrison Ford on the cover. It's a scene where he's with Marion and she's holding his lapels or what have you. And I remember showing it around, and I said, "This is coming out. You know who this is? You know who this is?" And nobody could peg that it was Harrison Ford because he had such a thick, from the shadow, he had such a thick You know, it wasn't even. It was darker than you would think. It looked more like Wolverine
Okay.
on the
Wow.
cover. And I said, "It's Harrison Ford." And everybody's like, "No, no." Yeah, Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, and who knew it was going to be such a tremendous, blockbuster.
Plus, it was so different than what he had played in Star Wars too. I mean that, and
Yeah, I mean,
also
it was the same and different. Yeah,
right,
yeah,
and Empire Strikes Back, because Empire Strikes Back was out by that time. It was in 1980.
yeah.
I just want to sneak in. I want to say hi to Gary. Gary's out there, Gary Boyer. Gary, good to see you out there. Hope you're well. Thanks for joining us. And Paul commented real quick. He said, I went in ready to pick Raiders apart because I didn't want it to be better than Clash of the Titans." Yeah, incidentally, they both premiered the same date too, June 12th.
Yeah.
At least
So
nationwide.
Raiders was Friday night for me, and then Clash of the Titans was Saturday.
Wow.
And then back to Raiders again with my parents, I think, on Tuesday. Because I had John Williams' theme in my head, you know?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Leslie. Leslie's
Yeah.
joining us. Welcome.
Thanks, Leslie. Made it myself. No, not really. Yeah.
Paul saying, I just watched it 2 days ago. It was better than I thought it would be.
Which one is that? Is he making a joke? Is it the Raiders?
I think he's talking about Clash of the Titans.
Mm. Oh, okay. I see. Yeah. So, again, I'm aging now, thinking about last 42 years. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm all in shape to play the 80-year-old Indiana Jones now. Do you remember the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles? I think we talked about this before. It was a television series, and I'm sure that everybody's familiar with it. I didn't watch it. I started watching it for a few weeks, but it just didn't really grab me. It was interesting because they took a historical perspective, and they always it's like a Forrest Gump thing where they put Indy in with historic figures or historical figures like T.E. Lawrence or Teddy Roosevelt or every week. But there was not that breathless kind of adventure to it. It was more like a history lesson with kind of usually a mystery or some kind of adventure story woven into it. But as a wraparound to each episode, they had a 90-year-old Indiana Jones telling the story. There'd always be.
Do remember that. See, I didn't watch a lot of those either, Ross. I probably saw a handful, but I do remember that now that you're mentioning that.
Yeah, and he had the eye patch, and he was in rough shape, walking with the cane,
and how scary is that? And Harrison Ford is 80 now, so that character is only like 10 years different in age.
Right. So in 10 years, I want to see him make a grumpy old indie movie, even though he's been making those for 42 years. But yeah, I think I had read something that they re-edited those episodes though, because they made them into little movies for video or what have you. And I'm not sure if they cut him out. You know how Lucas is always trying to reinvent the timeline. And erase our memories. Now that Harrison's 107 years old, we got to get rid of 90-year-old Indy because it doesn't match the timeline anymore. So
well, Sue commented. She said, "In one time they had Harrison playing the 90-year-old Indy."
Well, yeah, but he was 50. They had him guest once, and he had. I remember he was playing saxophone at a point. They get holed up in some. They get holed up in some snowy cabin out in the middle of nowhere. And and they start talking about some past adventure he had as a kid. So he's in the wraparound story.
Gotcha.
But he gets to get into a little scuffle in the wraparound. Yeah, and he plays the saxophone.
Jeff, oh my God, I got to go back and check that out.
Yeah, it's not that great.
Jeff is saying, I didn't watch much of the episodes with Indy as a little kid, but the rest was good. We'll probably never know how he got the eye patch.
Yeah,
probably not.
Yeah.
And Colin is saying, with AI, we will probably have endless Indy films with him looking around 40.
Hey, no spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers.
No, we probably know about that. But yeah, we have to reiterate because people are just joining us. If you've seen the new film, try not to leak anything because some people haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, just be considerate of everybody.
But it's okay about the AI thing, Colin. I'm not busting your stones about that. Or I'm busting your stones, but I'm not really angry.
He's not angry.
Otherwise, I'd burn your house down. Yeah.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for joining tonight. Good to see you there.
Hey, Bill.
Bill's joining us from Harmony, New Jersey.
Hey,
And Dennis
Dennis.
Chevalier is joining us from Canada. Welcome,
Yeah.
Dennis.
And what's going on up there? Are we getting any in Canada? Is there we got more smoke today? Is it what's going on up there?
Yeah,
Everybody okay?
wishing our Canadian friends and family members out there, hoping that everything is fine because there's a lot going on with that.
Yeah.
Today, well, I think today was better, but yesterday was worse. Or
Yeah. It wasn't as bad as earlier in the month though,
no,
where we
no, that was
had
downright
the scary
awful.
post-apocalyptic Damnation Alley weather.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were getting ready to do a sequel to Damnation Alley. That
Yeah.
only the reality version. Uh,
Carnation. So what did Leslie say? We talked over her timeline
um,
comment.
oh, she wrote, rewriting the timeline also allows you to correct mistakes.
Yeah. But you know what? That's part of the fun. You go back and watch some of these series before anybody cared about that stuff. There's constantly revisionism taking place between during series of films where they would slightly tweak. They would. It's not the timeline. They just tweak the people's reality. Something happens. It's like, oh, we that didn't really. I don't. It's not even like they say that didn't really happen. They just go on as if something another reality is taking place.
Well, if you want that, you can actually watch Star Trek episodes because Star Trek is known for doing that.
Yeah.
No spoilers with that, but just yeah,
It's
definitely.
I guess that was before video when people they knew people would be watching stuff over and over again. But that's part of the fun. I like stuff like that.
Well, it's fun. Yeah, I mean, Leslie's right. You can go back and correct mistakes, but there is something cool about seeing the mistakes. I guess you know what it comes down to, and I've always said this, especially with when they redo effects and everything. As long as they don't do away with the original, to me, it's fine if they redo things because then you get to see them and maybe it's enhanced or what have you. But the whole thing is just don't do away with the history because
Yeah.
I again, I'm hoping for the 50th anniversary. I've got my fingers crossed on all these anniversaries coming up. With Space 1999, I keep saying I'm hoping that by some means we will have something very special that will arrive in regards to lost footage. I say this about Star Wars when May of 20 whatchamacallit 20
2027.
yeah comes. I'm hoping that pretty much we'll have those originals back in our hands that'll be in some form of Blu-ray or something for 4D or what have you, just something that we can watch and is what it was literally 50 years ago. But
Hmm.
yeah, and that Disney would make a lot of money off of it because folks would buy it because it especially in high definition. My God.
Disney doesn't want to make money. Who told you that? Who
Hey, and
told you Disney
Colin,
wanted to make money?
Colin apologized. He didn't mean he wasn't trying to do any spoilers. It's
It's
that
okay.
Colin, no, it's all good, Colin. We just want to make sure nobody just talks about the new movie, though.
Yeah, no, I don't care about that stuff. That's already out there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I won't tell you the kind of stuff I don't want to hear because it'll get controversial.
Yeah, we don't.
I can't watch my mouth. Yeah.
Mark said, "So are the X-Men as far as twisting the timeline?"
I haven't watched all the X-Men movies, so
That's a good
and in
question.
fact, I watch them all. As I watch them, I forget them immediately. So, but I've seen a few of them. I think. Yeah, I read the
Hey,
comics.
Matt's out there. He's saying, "Hey guys, I keep waiting for Indiana Jones and the Convalescent Home of Doom."
Yeah, he'll be there with Bubba Otep. Yeah, but yeah, Harrison Ford got all those jokes when which one was it that came out the seventh episode? What was it called? What the hell was it called?
I don't remember.
I'm going to be sitting there in the home with them. It's not the Phantom Menace. It's the newer, the Force Awakens. Yeah, I remember somebody commented he was playing Han so old, and I thought I never got that out of my head. Han so old. Poor, I don't know. Poor Harrison Ford.
Ross, do you remember Lawrence
beard.
Kasdan? I'm going to change the subject on that note.
Do I
Lawrence
remember him?
Kasdan, you remember him, right?
Of course I do. Yeah, the screenwriter.
Yep,
He didn't come up with the story; he wrote the screenplay,
exactly.
and then he went and wrote, touched up Raiders or Empire Strikes Back. He did a revision of that. Yeah. Those were good movies that he worked on. They keep getting them back now to touch up things like Solo, a Star Wars story, and he may have worked on another one too, but yeah, and they're fine. It just doesn't have the kind of the magic that the Empire and Raiders had. But he did well. I mean, he did Continental Divide. I don't know if you remember that movie with
I
John Belushi and Blair Brown.
I didn't see it. I remember it being out though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not like any. It's not an immortal classic or anything, but it's entertaining.
Right.
If you want to see John Belushi in a love story.
Now, Colin just commented that I think most film franchises and TV series make the mistake of doing far too many in the end. Well, that's just it. And this is where, because it's a business, and what happens is the greed factor comes in that, okay, well, if the first one was super successful, you know what? Why don't we just try to reinvent the wheel, or, do it all over again? And, we can have the same type of output where, the fans love it, and then there's lots and lots of money that comes through. And that's the reason for it. But unfortunately, what a lot of times happens is, you can't, it's lightning in the bottle, and then they can't have it strike twice.
Right. It's a business, but when they make or when they used to make the movies anyway, they tried to make them good, and there was like craft to it when they made these this type of movie. But yeah, then it becomes making sequels, and then it became trilogies. Everything had to be a trilogy, and I thought they did a pretty good job. With this, it wasn't Star Wars, but they did a pretty good job. It didn't maintain the quality throughout the trilogy, but let it end at the trilogy. You know what I mean? It's like they wrap it up in a good place. They ride off into the sunset. But then as the decades go on, everything becomes so kind of, and I'm not saying that this was their motivation, but everything kind of becomes more corporate. They start to tick boxes about what they're going to put into the movies, or they're going to bring it back because they know it'll make a fortune on opening weekend. It'll make billions overseas. And instead of having anything like, we got to make this because, but we know they wrangle over the scripts, because it takes a decade or more now to get everybody to sign off on actually more than a decade, because we would have had so many more Indiana Jones films, and there happened so much, but they were also super successful, so Lucas and Spielberg and Harrison Ford were always busy, but they all had to sign off on all the ideas. It's like, oh no, I don't want to go to Atlantis. I'm not doing that one.
But what's crazy though, and you just brought up a valid point. So, okay, the first movie obviously was released in 1981. Now, today, and back in, or June 12th, between June 12th and June 30th. We'll say June 30th because that's what we seem to recall.
That's what Roy says. Yeah, that's what Roy recalls.
Well, that was
we,
me, you.
It's the cup, Roy.
It's the cup.
Did I choose wisely?
I'll let you know in 10 seconds, Ross. just don't go past the seal of your CDs.
I broke the seal. I'm sure I still have some that are still sealed up.
But then what was the second one? Was in May of 1984, Temple of Doom. The third one, they waited 5 years. That came out the summer of '89. So that was May of '89. So that's the first one that you went from a 3-year difference to a 5-year difference. Then it was 19 years later, in 2008, that they released the fourth one. And what was it? The Kingdom of
Crystal Skull. Yeah.
Crystal Skull. And then this is the kicker. It's another 15 years for Dial of Destiny, which is premiering today officially. So, wow.
Yeah. And if they had, they all had things to do, and they had good careers, so whatever. But we could have had more Indiana Jones, like James Bond movies. But who wants to come back every couple of years and do another one when you're, doing all kinds of interesting projects? It's interesting that the third one came out at a time when Spielberg had really kind of moved beyond this kind of thing. I think that's why it was 5 years. He was really trying to grow as a filmmaker. He got a lot of criticism for all of these big. At first, he was like, "Oh, the Wunderkind. We love this child prodigy, and he's making Jaws, and he's making Raiders or Close Encounters of the Third Kind." And then everybody like shot him down for 1941, and he came back with Raiders, and he did E.T. So he's making these great movies, though. But then they all start criticizing him for not growing up. He's making these blockbusters. So then he feels like he has to grow as a filmmaker. And he probably had this impulse anyways. I got to get past the bubble gum, and I've got to do more adult stories. but it was some really crazy choices he made, and strange fits.
Mhm.
I thought, there were some movies that just didn't entirely, they were interesting and they had, certainly memorable parts and some great segments, but a lot of them didn't really come together, I think, as features. Arguably, I say, because some people I'm sure love, like I enjoy Empire of the Sun. I don't think it really came together entirely. And I think there were one or two duds along the way. I wasn't,
Sure. But he was in a position where he could do these different types of movies, and that's
yeah,
when you've garnered success, when you're not limited, you're not trying to make an impression, you're not trying to sell yourself and, make the impression that, what, this is going to be a hit, it's going to be successful. I mean, he was at the point where he's cranking these movies out, and yeah, sure, like you said, he was like a prodigy in that sense. And then what happens is then, the critics, of course, being critics, do what they do best, and it does, some things are not favorable, but still he was in a position where he could still make the movies.
right.
I just want to welcome a couple of people that joined us real quick. Warren is out there. Warren, thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah,
Well,
he said
Neighbors, I think, was Belushi's last, I think, but I'm not sure. I mean, I
yeah.
think he died right after that. But
Michelle Diato is joining us. Michelle, welcome. And I also see Colleen is out there. Colleen's joining us from Pennsylvania. Welcome, Colleen. She said, in this day and age, the way movies are themed, I am surprised we don't have an indie and the multiverse orb type film.
yeah, it'll
Careful what
probably
you
come.
asked for.
Yeah, exactly. Disney
uh,
owns everything, so
Colin is saying Jaws was a prime example of leave it at number one, lots of laughs. Yeah, number two wasn't too
yeah,
bad, but you're right. Exactly. It's just like, you know what?
yeah.
Just,
Leave it at one.
when you hit your,
Yeah,
yeah.
yep.
Lawrence
Big
Casley
Chill.
saying,
Yeah, yeah. Big
yes,
Chill and
the big chill.
Silverado. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. He branched out into directing. Had a lot of success with that.
The Hay comments, in movies and theaters at least have become dinosaurs. A month later, it's on Walmart on shelves for $20.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
now we've been saying no spoilers, and I'm not giving any spoilers with this, but let me just say this. Last night, okay, I did go see the movie, and I was determined to see it. They had a sneak, not a sneak preview, but they opened it a day before. A lot of times what they would do with movies is they would do the midnight showing back in the day. I remember going to see Batman. That was a big thing. I saw that.
Now we're all 80 years old.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
here's the thing, though. I get into the theater, right? Because Ross and I were going to try to go together, but things didn't work out where we
yeah,
could both make it. So what happened was I got there, and I'm coming around. You pull into the mall, and then you have two sections of a parking lot, and I'm like, look, and I'm getting ready for the anticipation that this place is going to be potentially,
mob.
stacked, mobbed.
Yeah,
And I see nothing as far as cars on the one area of the parking lot. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to come around the bend. And I go around the bend. There is nothing there. And I'm like, oh my God. So what happens is I go into the theater and they have, they have the concessions, and then they have another area where you can potentially buy tickets. You can buy them at the concession area now because, it's 2023. And then you can also have them inside another area, which is designated. So the guy that's by the concessions, I walk over. I said, can you get tickets? And he's like, yeah. So I said to him, I go, I want to try to get into the showing. And I said, is it packed? Is it sold out? And he goes, well, let me check. Well, no, I think you'll be okay. And then and he goes, yeah, I see four seats. And I go, four seats available? And he goes, no, four people in the theater. And I was like, oh my God. Wow.
yeah,
Wow. And now
yeah.
it's a double-edged sword because there's nothing better than going to a movie theater and you know what? You're in there and you've got it pretty much to yourself. I mean, those days of that happening at least like 10, 15, 20 years ago never really would happen unless it was like towards the end of the run. Everybody in the valley has literally seen the movie. This was not the case, and I was thinking, okay, it's a Thursday night, maybe people, it might be a little
Yeah.
jammed. It was like me, the four people, and the crickets that were in the audience, and I was just like, wow. So I was like happy, but so sad because what's happened in regards to folks going to the movies?
Right,
It's just,
right. I mean,
uh,
there is the fact that maybe that people didn't realize that they were going to sneak in a Thursday since it was widely publicized to be opening today. but
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't think it's just not the same anymore. Where and people aren't going to line up around a block for a movie anymore. That's over.
No,
Because they'll put it in 5 theaters and it'll start every half hour.
Ross, I was going to say Joe at first. I was going to say Ross. I remember back when, going to see Temple of Doom. I remember standing in line, and it was, I think, and it was like the first day. It was in the middle of the week too,
Right.
and the line was there. You know what I mean? And it
Right.
was, I don't know. It's a
We
different time.
can.
It's
We
a different
can.
era.
Yeah. It
It's
is. It
yeah.
is.
But
Grumpy old
anyway,
men.
just wanted to show that.
Well, so what I wanted to say, getting back to Spielberg making all these different kinds of movies. So Temple when Last Crusade came out, you say it was 5 years later. It's really kind of a return. The first time he went back to that kind of summer blockbuster film in a little while, because he
Mhm.
made Color Purple and he'd made Empire of the Sun, and I'm not sure if he'd done Always yet or not. But you know what I mean? He was doing things like that. And in '89, he went back and did Temple of Doom. So it was kind of, you know, he wasn't really in that place, and yet he managed to make a solid film. I'm of the opinion that I know you love. Everybody loves Last Crusade, and it's a fun movie. It's not another Raiders of the
Mhm.
Lost Ark, but it's a respectable
No,
ending to the series.
right,
And especially after the second one, which was very divisive and very uneven. Um, but you can live with it as a trilogy, because there are
right.
plenty of trilogies where the middle movie wasn't as good. They're not all The Empire Strikes Back. um, but I was never like a huge, Last Crusade was the greatest movie I ever saw. It's entertaining and
I think
solid.
no, and I think that's well put. In fact, I was talking to Jeffrey Morris about this, and about that too. In fact, I was talking to Warren about this earlier as well, in regards to the movies, the three, and it's it's kind of crazy because, well, with Raiders of the Lost Ark, out of all the movies I've ever seen in the movie theater, Raiders was the one that I saw the most, even over a Star Trek movie. I saw of the Lost Ark 11 times in the theater. Now, granted, that was over, there was, I believe it was re-released, or there was extended showings, but I remember just, keeping track of that for whatever reason, but it never got old. I mean, it was just something that just I really, really enjoyed. We all enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Temple of Doom, I loathe. I really totally disliked it.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought it was too violent. I thought it was totally different than Raiders. And Spielberg and Lucas were concerned too, because they've been quoted too. It was a dark period of their lives, and stuff, maybe with family stuff going on. And the other piece of it too was that they didn't want to copy Raiders of the Lost Ark, because then what happens
Yeah.
is you do something that's very similar, then people are saying it's not going to be as good as the original.
Right.
So then what you do is you take it into a different direction, but then if you take it into a different direction, people are going to say, well, it's not that. But to me, it was just way too violent, way too dark. Um, just I wasn't a big fan of the character of Short Round, and when I first saw it, I'll say I
Yeah.
actually went back and watched all four of the movies, and now five. But I went back and watched these four movies within the last 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a reason why I've not watched Temple of Doom in almost 39 years. And
Yeah.
honestly, I have no desire to rewatch that anytime soon. And to be
Yeah.
fair, Short Round did not annoy me is like he did back, in the day. And I think I think part of it was I was yearning for another Raiders of the Lost Ark type of movie.
Right.
And
Right.
one
Right.
thing I forgot was, and when I was talking to Warren earlier, he reminded me that was a prequel, and I totally forgot about that. It
Right.
takes
Right.
place prior to Raiders, and I
Right.
totally forgot that. I wouldn't have remembered that unless he had said
Yeah.
that.
Oh, absolutely. And now you're stirring all kinds of things that I want to add to that about it being darker. It was definitely darker.
Mhm.
They didn't want to repeat themselves, but I think they were also trying, even though in addition to the stuff going on in their personal lives, where their relationships were in a kind of a tumultuous place at the time. I think that they knew, like Lucas knew with Star Wars, they went darker with The Empire Strikes Back, and it was a
Yep.
successful approach to kind of keep the series fresh. Um, the other thing that you said about the prequel, was the original conception of Indiana Jones when Lucas had originally come up with the characters. He wanted him more like a kind of a little bit like a James Bond kind of thing. He wanted him more to be like a playboy and a man of the world, a womanizer, and all this kind of thing. And this kind of allows him to get rid of Marion, essentially,
Right.
because it was such a solid film, and you really felt like he belonged with Marion. She was, to
Yep.
me, the strongest. I mean, to everybody, was the strongest.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Female lead in any of the movies, and they were perfect together. And like, well, what are you going to do? You can't go to like the next movie and have them ditch Marion, kind of thing.
Right.
Although we don't know what happened to her with The Last Crusade. But I haven't seen the most recent film, so. But I did see the last one, Crystal Skull, and I don't even remember if they said what happened. Maybe he went off with Carrie Fisher. I don't know, Princess Leia. But when he going to 1935, he could very easily have something with annoying Willie Scott and what have you. But the other thing is, it got a lot of blowback, Temple of Doom, for its racism, for the caricatures and the stereotypes and whatever. And I don't think that they were really they were blind. I don't think they were really thinking about that when they did it, because what they were doing, these films really built on 1930s movies, and there were very definite precedents in actual classic films that they lifted and kind of put into these movies, not really realizing that they don't really work in the 1980s anymore. So, and that people might get offended, because Temple of Doom takes so much from Gunga Din, 1939 with Cary Grant and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and Victor McLaughlin. But I mean, there's stuff all through it. The thuggy or the villains, and the thing with the gong at the beginning is at the beginning of Gunga Din, and they have the rope bridge. I mean, a lot of the stuff is lifted right out of there, and they want to conjure that 30s vibe when they made it. But unfortunately, it was seen as stereotyped, and that there was this kind of condescension to the Indian culture with the Shankara stones and the white savior thing and all that. Right. But people weren't thinking, they weren't thinking that when they made it.
I would like.
It's just so much that you could. I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk over you, but there's just so much that you could find wrong with it from today's perspective.
Yeah, I would like to think that they weren't trying to do that either, and I don't believe that they were. I would agree with you, and really they were going for that tone, because it was. I mean, and at that time it was only when they were coming out with these movies, it had only been maybe 45 years ago since.
I know. They were almost, they were as far away from those movies as we are now from Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is crazy.
Yeah, but it's true though. Unfortunately, I mean, we have to be sensitive to certain things.
Yeah.
But I think what's happened is so much time has passed since then that there may be a lot of criticism for that. And unfortunately, though, too, what's happening today with a lot of the movies being made, and I'm not talking about the new one, I'm just talking about in general in regards to films that are being made, and even television shows. It's going in a direction, and I really don't want to go there, but I'm just going to say it. It's just that it's almost like the writers are being influenced to write, as a how am I trying to put this? They're trying to write centered around the times of what's going on, the temperature or the atmosphere of what's
our zeitgeist, of what's going on now, you're saying, as opposed to what would have been happening in the 30s or what have you.
Yeah. Which I guess, you could look back and say, well, anything that's happening or anything that's written, I mean, Trek.
It's always a reflection of your time. Yeah.
But it, in regards to their stories, I mean, Gene Roddenberry was trying to, put messages out there and be in between the lines. But the problem is when that's all you're writing about and all you're showing, I mean, the creative juices seem to be squashed to an extent, and it's very inhibiting. And that's what's really scary, because writers are not able to express themselves maybe the way that they would want to, or be allowed to have it turn into a television show or a television series, or maybe even a movie, because of the climate that's out there in regards to present day. And, that's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother time.
Well,
but
sure.
But
I mean, these were serials. They were based on serials. They're cartoons is what they are. They're the serials where every week you go to the movies and you'd see, a 15-minute, 20-minute installment, and it would always end with a cliffhanger, and you'd have to
Right.
come back next week to see how they get out of it. And that's what they were
Right.
kind of going
Sure,
for.
because I mean that's what they did with like Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers. I mean that's
Yeah,
just one example of
and
it.
there was always plenty of mustache twirling and sinister guys, and
Yeah.
you know in bad Asian makeup, or what have you. I mean, because it was a thing back then. I mean, the whole yellow peril thing was huge in the 30s, and Nazis. I mean, there's the build up to World War II, and even in the 30s, everybody tried to kind of remain. The studios tried to remain neutral because they didn't want to lose Germany's business.
Mhm.
But by the late 30s, Warner Brothers was already starting to leak these Nazi, menace films, and got a lot of criticism for it. And then you had Mo Howard and Charlie Chaplin imitating Hitler, and then the war broke. Once we were in World War II, the gloves were off. Then
Right.
every other
All that
movie
was
was like, we're punching Nazis again.
yeah.
So like
And then
Captain America.
right, Captain. Yeah,
Punching
exactly.
Hitler.
I want to catch up on some of the comments, some of the folks that are commenting out there. Brennan commented the backlash was just beginning.
Hmm.
Leslie said Spielberg didn't really get respect with Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Jeff Rubel says it's funny how the length of time it takes to go from one movie to the next is inversely proportional to the level of technology available.
Hmm.
Christian is out there. Christian is joining us from Canada. Welcome, Christian.
Yes. R.I.P. Alan Arkin.
Yes. Rest in peace to Alan Arkin. Yeah,
I
that
know
news
he
broke
was
today. We
he
were
was
just talking.
89, but it's still kind of a surprise to see Alan Arkin go. Yeah.
Yeah. Brennan is commenting saying Jurassic Park is another one that should have stopped at one, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean,
Interesting enough, I've never seen any of those films.
yeah, I know. You had your chance though, because this year was a round anniversary, I think.
Yeah, it was 30th anniversary. In fact, we were talking about that because Nick Tate, in regards to his voiceover work,
Mm.
really took off because he was the when it came to the movie premieres and doing the voiceover work for announcing about Jurassic Park. He was, if you go back
Okay.
and watch the trailers, that was Nick
Right.
doing that.
Yeah, Paul just said the second one was basically King Kong. And yeah, it's fun because you really want to see the dinosaurs and civilization. Come on, you gotta bring them back. Yeah.
Warren commented
Let's see
15
people.
people in Regina Theater last night because Warren
Yeah.
saw it also. Yeah, it's you
I
had
guess I
more
don't
there with
worry about
Warren.
them in. Yeah.
Leslie commented, the last movie I saw that was packed was the first of It. Oh yeah, the first
Hmm.
part of it. After that, it was never full again, no matter what movie it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a shame. Colin said, can't beat seeing a movie projected through, though, no matter how big a TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roy, did you discuss viewing order by chance? No, Warren was asking. Yeah, he was saying earlier too about like to watch these movies as far as like with Temple of Doom and then watch
Yeah.
Raiders and then
This kind of thing makes me crazy. They do it, when people start discussing this stuff about the Star Wars movies, you want to throttle people. It's like, no, you got to watch them in the order they're made. Otherwise, the revelation about Darth Vader being Luke's father is like blown from the first movie. It's like, why would you watch it? There's no like dramatic tension or anything. Make them
no,
in
and
the
that's
watch them in the order that they're made. Just like this thing, they should watch them because there are in jokes. Not to
right.
talk over you, like the Arab swordsman. They
Mm-hmm.
send it up in Temple of Doom because he meets up
Right.
with the two guys with the swords, and you're supposed to recollect, what happens in that movie when he goes for his gun and the gun's not there, and it wouldn't have the impact, if
Right,
you
and
would.
it's funny you're saying that because when I was talking to him about it, he even said he made that comment too. He said, "Well, that's the downside of it because yeah, then it's not as funny because you've already seen that happen, and or
Right,
actually you haven't seen it happen if you're going in the order." But yeah,
right. And I mean, yeah, they do that on purpose. They put little winks and references. But there will be people that will try to watch this stuff sequentially, and I don't know if they want to have their lives ruined. That's fine. If they want to live their sad little lives, they can do that.
Leslie commented, "Alien was better than Alien. Aliens was better than Alien." You know, they're two totally different movies. I am a huge fan of Aliens. Leslie, I actually saw that movie on the day before my 20th birthday. It was July 19th, 1986. Saw it at the East and Eric on a date, and it was a good movie. It was a very good movie. And but to me, Alien, and we've talked about both of them because we've done them on the show, but Alien was more of the horror film, where Aliens was more the sci-fi, I don't want to say adventure movie, but it was suspense,
Action, yeah.
action, yeah, type
It
film.
had, it had as much action as it did horror. The
Yeah,
first one was kind of a haunted house movie,
right.
and the second one had that whole military uh, thing going, where they were kind of outmatched by the aliens.
But in my opinion, they should have stopped with the second one because I did not like the
Yeah,
third. I
it's all
really
it's all
did not
yeah,
like the fourth.
but it's all in retrospect. But yeah, if you can't make a good one, just don't make it. Or if you can't maintain the quality, and they go downhill pretty quickly. Not as badly as Superman, but
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another disappointment.
yeah.
Paul saying the Dungeons and Dragons movie was packing theaters.
You could get in because everybody's in Dungeons and Dragons, right? The other thing about Temple of Doom was, the level of violence. That was one of the films that kind of precipitated the PG-13 rating. Because if you recall, everything was G, PG, or rated R. And you had that gap in the middle where you were getting all these movies like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Gremlins. And it's like, mommy. But it's very funny that from our perspective, not funny, haha, but that it was such a big deal then, because now, like the stuff that people bring their kids to, they're taking them to see Batman and stuff. I would never, if I went to see that when I was a kid, I would never sleep again. How
No, and
Batman.
let me tell you something. This really was a sore subject with me, and I don't know if we talked about this on the show or not, but years ago, Shari and I went to see one of the Batman movies, and I think it was the one that had the Joker, and there was literally a 9-year-old, had to be 9 or 10-year-old child in there with his parents. The child was screaming
Mm,
because the child was so fearful of what they were seeing on the screen. And the
mm,
parents did not take the child out until maybe at least 30 minutes later. It was ridiculous. Why, okay, maybe some folks didn't realize that this Batman movie was not going to be like, and some, I'm sure nowadays too, some people would say, oh, well, there was violence associated even with the Batman TV series. I mean, we grew up watching Batman, and I mean, I love Batman. I mean, Adam West, is iconic, and I remember watching that on Channel 11. It was on after school, and it was the thing to do. It was on 5 days a week. The point is that is not the Batman that was in the movie theater with and I think it was it Christopher Nolan that did those movies. It was just no. And the fact that the parents wouldn't take the child out, that's even worse. It's like, how do you let your
yeah.
child see that?
Well, it's not. I don't like the idea of the kid being subjected to it, but at least he had
No.
that kind of reaction to it. It just seems like kids go to these things now, and how deadened can you be? How what do you call it? Like inured. How you're like you become inured to violence and inured to the imagery and stuff, and you don't want like a 10-year-old kid being you know ripe to be a psychopath because he has no empathy anymore because he grew up on Batman villains.
Yeah.
I can't blame the movies for that entirely, but yeah, there is an age appropriate time to see these things, and I think that they do tend to aim. They put these things out and kind of all the dads now are all the people our age are all gamers and stuff, and they're still reading comics because nobody grows up anymore. That's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go take Sonny Boy to go see Batman when Daddy wants to see Batman. It's like, all right, we're gonna go see Batman now. And so they make these things for Dad, and he drags the kid there, and the kid winds up seeing everybody get decapitated. So by scary insane asylum people.
No, it was very wrong though. It was really,
Yeah,
really, it was very bad.
it's
Um,
kind of rough, but that
so
was PG-13. Yeah.
yeah, that was, and then that's when they made the change. You're right. That was the
Mhm.
movie that introduced it, and that was what 39 years ago.
Yeah, Red
Um,
Dawn got a lot of flack too. I
yeah.
remember. Yeah. What did it say?
Oh,
Hi,
the
Kay
reunion
Harrison.
between Kehu Quinn
Yeah.
and Harrison Ford a couple months ago was touching and emotional. Yeah, because what they were doing is they were showing Harrison Ford hugging him as a child and then showing him at the Academy Awards when he won, which was I was rooting for him. I was rooting for Michelle
Yeah.
as well. And
What a comeback that was, huh?
yeah,
For K.I. Kwan, for,
yeah,
I mean, he hadn't been around forever, and to have him
that
come
was
back
pretty
so
awesome.
strong. Yeah. Because he was in a lot of stuff at that time. I mean, most notably Goonies, but he was in some other things too. And then he just kind of dropped off the face of the planet for a few decades. But so good for him.
Colleen said I found her more annoying than Short Round. Who?
Yeah, that's the thing. They say they were trying for kind of an African Queen kind of, banter between the two of them, like they were
Mhm.
mismatched. But she was, and I hate to say she was shrill because that's the kind of thing that's like always comes across as sexist. But she was pretty shrill. It wasn't just kind of banter; it was just a lot of shrieking. And between her and Short Round, unfortunately, had the high voice too. It was kind of like, I got to turn down the volume a little bit.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I mean,
Yeah, because she continued to go on, and it got
you never heard Katharine Hepburn shriek like that. Yeah,
annoying.
in a banter match or what have you. But yeah, so but the funny thing about the racism, uh, accusations or what have you, everybody involved with the film, however, they had no problem with it. The Indian
Mm,
actors that they had, they were just in Gandhi at the time, or went on to be in Gandhi. I guess I was 82, but Puri and Roshan Seth were both supportive of the film. I mean, Amrish Puri, it was his biggest international hit was his Mola Ram, but apparently he played a villain in Indian movies, something like, I don't know, like 300 times or so, an insane amount of times. He was always a villain. But once he shaved his head as Mola Ram, he thought it was so effective that he always shaved his head for the Indian movies. So he loved it. And Roshan Seth, the other actor, claimed that whole banquet scene, which, yeah, I didn't like the banquet scene from the beginning because I thought a lot of the it was a exposition scene where they're trying to tell you things that are important to the plot, but
mhm.
everybody's screaming "ew" every few seconds, so you
Right.
can't really hear what anybody's talking about. And it's like, oh yeah, the savage, exotic land where they're eating these savage things like chilled monkey brains and eels and gross things. But according to Rosh and Seth, people missed the joke because it was supposed to be playing to Western assumptions of what you know these exotic cultures would actually be eating is what
Okay.
he saw it as, and the joke didn't come across in the film.
It got
And
lost.
it
I would
became
say it
offensive.
got lost in
I
translation,
think it
right?
did get, yeah, because watching it myself, I didn't feel like it was a parody on what we would on our perceptions. It just didn't come across that way.
I didn't take
But
it as
that
such.
yeah, but he said on the set when they were doing it that's what they were really aiming for with that. So that's how he kind of defends the film. And of course, Kei Kwan doesn't think it's a racist film.
Right.
So you know, but yeah, it's hard when all the villains. But it happens in James Bond movies too. So I mean, Doctor No was supposed to be Far
Sure.
Eastern. Um, Granted, he wasn't that much of a stereotype. He wasn't like a. I don't know. I didn't think the stuff with Lao Che was horribly. But what do I know? I'm a Western white man. I have no
But
idea.
I'll be honest though, but that wasn't
Yeah,
in the reasons that you just brought up about how a lot of folks feel or felt about the movie because of that. If
yeah,
if they were ethnicities and they were affected by it and didn't like it for that reason, I respect it. But for me personally, that wasn't those weren't. I mean, I understand it and I
yeah.
respected that folks feeling that way. But for me personally, that was not why.
Why
That
you
was not
hated it?
part of the big equation of disliking the movie. I mean, if
Yeah,
anything, that would add to it. But my other reasons were just the violence factor and
yeah,
the just it just seemed concentrated on being that type of film. It was more for the shock value of it, and
yeah,
I don't know. It again, they wanted a different movie, and that's what they got. I mean, they
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
achieved that. So, I mean, if they were trying to hit that mark, yeah, okay. Well, you definitely didn't do a direct sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, even if it was a prequel, because
yeah,
that was
yeah,
not the case with this film. And then even the subject matter of what they were doing with, though, I mean, with the slavery and everything, I mean,
right,
that was
right.
one of the
Well,
things that was
it's
very,
disturbing. Yeah,
very
yeah,
disturbing
yeah.
what was
With the
going on.
kids, they're kids
And
that they're enslaving.
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, that was like probably one of the number one factors.
And the whole stuff with the possession of the people and
Yep.
ripping people's hearts out of their chests and throwing them in lava pits.
Like,
Yeah,
what kind of mushrooms were they, eating when they
yeah,
were
yeah, it was pretty.
coming
It could be
across
pretty
the
rough.
line?
And I can't defend the whole white savior thing with the village, but I like with kind of what they did with the character because it was in contrast. Another reason to make it a prequel because it's in contrast to the kind of the more morally focused indie of the Raiders of the Lost Ark because he's out for the fortune and glory at the
Mhm.
beginning. You have the whole character arc of him doing it for fortune and glory, and yet he goes around. It goes by the end, he does the right thing, and he returns the Shankara stone to the village and what have you, instead of taking it to the museum. What about Indy as a character? What about this guy? Like every movie, I didn't see this one, but he always kind of gets the artifact or the whatever the treasure is, but he doesn't quite get it. You know what I mean? The Ark of the Covenant, the Shankara stone, the Holy Grail.
He gets it, but he doesn't get it, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah,
And that's a very good point, Ross. I didn't even stop to think about that. Yeah, it's like he even with the um, Last Crusade. I mean, he's so close, and he's like, Dad, I've almost got it. I can get it. And then it's the moment in the movie. I mean, it's the groundbreaking moment when Henry Jones says to Henry Jones Jr., Indiana, Indiana, let it go. It's like it really like hits home, and it's just a special moment between those two
yeah.
characters.
It's their
But yeah,
relationship is really the Holy Grail.
yeah,
What
yeah,
they
that's
both been seeking. Yeah,
right.
but
That's
but it's
I was
interesting because go ahead.
It's okay. I was just going to say that's the important part, and even there's that moment where you think that Indy is went off the cliff, and Sean Connery is saying his character is saying that it what happened, and he said
Mm.
I never got a chance to talk to him, and he goes, all I needed was like a moment, and it's moralistic in that sense. It's like don't let time slip by,
Yeah,
because it'll be
yeah.
gone like that.
Yeah,
But
and it's realistic. I think even in my circumstance with my stepfather and stuff, whenever I try to talk to him, we're talking past each other. It's there are several scenes where Harrison Ford tries, where Indiana Jones tries to talk to Henry Jones Sr. and they're just not connecting. It's like, all right, what do you want to talk about? Kind of thing.
I know
It just doesn't come
finally they
together.
have their moment, and he just like stares at him, and
Yeah,
and he's like, well, and then he's like, yeah.
but back to my point though, we celebrate this guy as like one of the great action heroes, and we all look up to him as like this American hero and everything, and yet he never really accomplishes anything, at least in the original trilogy. I mean, he does prove he's very good at overcoming adversity. He
Mhm.
gets out of a lot of situations. He screws up a lot too, which is why we love him.
Right.
But he always manages to come out on top, and yet he never really attains the goal ultimately. And in fact, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's totally futile. I mean, this guy battles his way all the way to, and then the Ark does all the work. It's like Indy didn't even have to be there. So
Well, I think it's summed up perfectly at the end of the movie when he's talking to Marion. He says they don't realize what they got, and then she goes to him that but I realize what I got. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
it's
yeah,
more important. It's not the superficial.
right,
It's not the materialistic
right,
items that mean everything and that are
right,
value. It's more the person and
right.
the soul
Just
searching.
just like Henry Jones in the third one. It's the
Exactly.
same thing. Yeah, it's interesting
That's
parallel. Yeah, but in some, I didn't think the second movie, I didn't think Temple of Doom was anywhere, on the level of Raiders. But in some respects, I enjoyed the fact that the character had more of a say over, you know, the movie. He had more of a role in the outcome of the movie. Even though there's still a supernatural element or a
mm.
mystical element with the Shankara stones, at least Indy had something to do with it this time. Um, but yeah, then he doesn't get the Grail. I'm sorry, this is supposed to be like a no spoiler episode. I hope people have seen these movies,
Well, I
but
think I think I think if we're safe in regards to the first four, because not for anything, it's been
for the
40.
first
It's
three at
between.
least. Yeah,
I mean, it's been between 15 years and 42 years that
yeah,
the first four were out. So I think we're okay with that. It's just the last one that's spoiler free. So I mean, yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Oh, and then John Williams does so much of the heavy lifting, with the music and everything that we root for. You got that march and everything. It's like, oh, so we know Indy's the hero, even if he's inconsequential. So, who was your favorite heroine in these movies? Did you have a favorite? I think we know the answer.
I'm going to say Marion, but I will say as far as a close second, Allison Duty. She
Oh,
definitely,
really?
yeah. I think, but Marion was my yeah, Marion all the
I
way.
didn't, I didn't feel like they gave Allison Duty a lot to do, even though she's kind of she's the
I think she was
turncoat.
a tragic character because
Yeah.
I think she was just misplaced and misguided. I don't think she was. I mean, she was obviously bad, but she was. I think she just, and again, Henry Senior sums it up. He says to Indiana, he goes, she never, Elsa never really believed in the power of the Grail, and it's true. It's just that she was looking for the materialistic aspect of it. I think she was probably on the right path originally, but I think what happened was she got swayed and she went, she turned to the dark side, or she was overcome by the dark side, so to speak. Not to do a crossover of universes here, but it's just, yeah. Now let me ask you. I'll return the same question to you, which was a good question. Who was your favorite?
Oh, Marion. If it were up to me, I would have done a whole trilogy with the same characters. I wouldn't have mixed I saw what they were trying to do, and once they had done it with Temple of Doom, obviously they had to switch it up with every movie.
Right.
But because they went, but you know what? There's not as much weight on the movie. To me, there's not as much weight on the movies. Like if they do a bad one, it doesn't drag the others down. I feel like with the Star Wars movies, when they do a bad one, it kind of drags the others down because it's one story. Like here, it's like, yeah, that was a good one. That was not so good. Oh, this one's pretty good. You know what I mean? You can just kind of go through and it doesn't have to. It doesn't have all that baggage.
Right.
Yeah, she's my favorite of by far of all the other heroines.
The
I
one
haven't
thing
seen
that
the new one yet, but yeah,
the one thing that was disappointing though to me though was in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
yeah,
Now, granted, so much time had gone by. They had been through a
right.
relationship, so people change. People are not the same as they were, and obviously, at least it's 19 years since the last movie, but it had literally been 19. It had been 27 years since they actually were together in a film. So,
Yeah.
or you could say 27 years maybe in their lives. I don't, you know what I mean? If you're doing it that way, I don't know if the chronology measures up. I didn't go back and line it up. I guess that would make for a great exercise to do that.
Mm.
But she was a different type of Marion. She wasn't the Marion that we knew from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah,
And there was something missing, and I attributed it to one thing, and I was thinking maybe it was she wasn't. I don't know, and I think Karen Allen was fantastic in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but there was something that I mean I love seeing her in the fourth movie, but there was a different type of chemistry. But maybe it was because they were going for the time factor, that time had went by and she was a different person. But to me, there was something that was a little bit off, and I can't put my finger on it.
yeah. It's not the years; it's the mileage. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, I felt the same way. I felt like there wasn't quite that
Chemistry.
connection, but there was a lot about that movie that didn't quite match the other three. And I'm not trashing it totally,
No.
I'm not one of those guys that gets angry about nuking the fridge. I'm fine with that. But there was way too much CG in it, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But then they had to have the cute George Lucas groundhogs, the obligatory where they like gophers, prairie dogs, or whatever they were. Oh boy, just
There's a lot of comments that came through
yeah. You
here.
might as well. You probably met, but we've been talking for a long time. You can fly through some of those. Yeah.
Sean, thanks for joining us. Sean is joining us.
Did she rip your heart out?
She's saying Temple of Doom was my first date with my wife.
There you go.
That is very special though. And
Hmm.
let's see. Warren is saying, wait, he doesn't get the Grail or geez. What?
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. And he also said, coined the phrase "nuke the fridge."
Read the fridge. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And let's see, Christian is saying, I remember that even I never watched the movie. Oh, Marion Brennan is saying Marion Duty was cute. Wooly, not even in the running. Kate Capshaw.
It was a thankless part, for her.
Gary's here's a great little short John Williams trailer for the new movie. No spoilers. Yeah, we'll take a look at that later since there's no spoilers.
Yeah.
And
I have an idea of what that probably is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
Thanks,
a 2 minute thing we
sharing,
get for
Gary.
John Williams. Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
Jeff said the one he drank from was obviously another fake. Look at him today. Hey, he's doing pretty good for 80.
Yeah.
Warren said, Last Crusade had so many good moments with Elsa's character. While I'm as human as the next guy. I was the next guy.
Yeah.
Or man.
And what was it with the farewell, like the Austrian farewell or what have you? I haven't watched these movies in a little bit, but I remember.
Oh, right. She says, "Let me show you how we say goodbye in Austria," and then he says, "Let me show you how we say goodbye in Austria," and then he punches him, and then he headbutts.
Yeah, and he says, "Oh, I like because there were the two goodbyes."
Right,
like, yeah,
right. Because I like the Austrian way better. Oh boy. Paul says,
"Third one's almost like a comedy."
Nothing about Crystal Skull. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, it's funny because I think Paul and I saw Crystal Skull together. Yeah, and you forget a lot of it.
Right.
So, go ahead.
Dan Rodriguez is out there. Dan, welcome. He said the Nazi spy blonde, I can't remember her name, Elsa. Her character was deep throughout the story, and you got to see what she was willing to do for the treasure. Yeah. No, very, very true, Dan. Jerry's joining us. Jerry Seward. Jerry, thanks for being out there as well. Being a mother probably changed her too.
Well, Marion.
Yes, Marion. Yes, good point. Very good point, Jerry. Brennan is saying the entire movie was off. John is saying, or excuse me, Sue is saying, Gary, do you promise no spoilers in this clip? And
yeah, I don't. If it's what I'm thinking of, there aren't any spoilers. It's just people talking about John Williams and his role, in the movie.
That's all it is, and it's good. Jeff is commenting, I can take Crystal Skull or leave it. A ride off into the sunset means something.
Exactly. It was a good way to end it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a little bit of a, there's so many of these things like Doc Savage where the guy's got his team and they just ride off to their next adventure, whatever it is, into the sunset.
Right.
You don't need to know what happens next.
Which was appropriate. I mean, it was a wonderful way to end it.
It's just an eternity of adventure. We don't need to know what happens after
Gary
that.
just confirmed no spoilers too. Thanks, Gary. Okay.
Yeah. You got me thinking about something else, and I can't remember what it is now. Oh, good.
Go ahead.
Today's action movies basically taken over as new comedies. Yeah. I was going to say something about sidekicks. Who your favorite sidekick was. There's something about it reminded me of something. Indy has various sidekicks for the movie. Short Round's the most prominent, probably, but he has guys working with him. As Bond does all the time. They usually get killed off. But, yeah.
Now here's the thing, Marcus. This is something that I picked. I felt Marcus was more serious in Raiders, and they seem to almost make a caricature of himself in Last Crusade, which that was something I did not like.
Yeah, same thing.
Almost like he was a buffoon, and it was like the ongoing joke. I mean, it was great when he says that Marcus, Elsa says to Donovan, it's clear what happened. He gave the map to Brody, and then Donovan comes back and says he'll stick out like a sore thumb, and then Indiana's like hell he will. He says he's got a 2-day head start, and he just goes on this whole thing, and then he says with luck he's got the cup. And he's on his way back. And then the next scene cuts and he's out in the middle of nowhere. And he's just like this lost person, this lost soul that you're feeling like sorry for. That was not the Marcus Brody.
But for comic intent, though. But yeah.
For comic intent, absolutely. But it was. And if you remember in Raiders of the Lost Ark, when for the first time when Indy is back in the university, and he's teaching his class. Marcus walks in on him, and then what happens is Indy starts talking to him. Indy actually seems like he's nervous around Marcus a little bit, and he's
Right.
trying to convey what happened on his adventure and how that he had the piece, and he's saying about Belloc,
Oh,
but
right. Yeah.
he's there's like a nervousness to him, and it's not the same way. It's like role reversal almost. I don't know.
Right.
Do
Right.
you remember that?
Yeah, yeah. Marcus is more like somebody looks up to, like a mentor, and he even says at a point, if he were 5 years younger, he'd go look for the Ark himself and what have
Right.
you. And you kind of like think you have the idea that he's more competent that they make him out to be in the third one. But it's a total bait and switch. Like just like when I heard Sean Connery was cast as his father, I did not expect that kind of uh, pairing. I mean, as far as the actors, yes, I thought Sean Connery is perfect because he played James Bond. He's a tough guy, and I
Yep.
thought, oh yeah, they were gonna have like a four-fisted Jones thing. But then they cast him totally against type, and he's an academic, and he's oblivious, and yet every once in a while he pulls something out of his sleeve, like the Charlemagne to take out the Nazi plane or what have you.
Right.
So,
Right.
so I like what they did with it, but it was not totally not what I was expecting. And yeah, they did try to go more for comic intent
Oh,
with Marcus.
definitely. Dan, yes, it was like a child trying to prove himself to his father. Exactly. Exactly.
And then,
That's
then didn't he and Connery wind up? They were like classmates. Didn't they go to the same school or something? Because they were doing the kind of the college song or something in the tank.
yes. Yes. Yeah.
But do you know that? Yeah, now I don't know if this ever came up in any of the movies. Probably not. But there's a Princeton connection with Indiana Jones. He actually went to Princeton. The
Oh,
character
okay.
for a time. His father taught at Princeton. Henry Jones Sr. apparently taught at Princeton for decades. And when he goes to, where is it, Utah? Where's it set? The opening of the third one. He's on sabbatical.
It's in Utah. It
Yeah,
wasn't.
yeah. He's on sabbatical from Princeton at the time he's doing that. I don't know how we were supposed to know this. If it ever was mentioned in any of the movies, I don't think so. But reading up on the character of Indiana Jones, supposedly he was teaching here, and for a time Marcus Brody taught here too. But of course, what is it, New Bedford or Bedford College in Connecticut, Bedford, Connecticut? It's some kind of it's a fictional college where he teaches. It doesn't exist. But oh yeah, and he went to Princeton High School for a bit too. Oh, you know where it came from? Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, because there are a couple episodes that are set here. I don't think they filmed them here, but they're set here.
Gotcha.
A lot of times they film them like down in North Carolina and say it's Princeton. So, oh,
Right.
Sala, yeah, Sala's a great sidekick. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, he's probably the best. All the best stuff is from the first movie. Face it, unless we say best father, then it's Sean Connery.
Then it's Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Christian is saying, I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark first time with a new girlfriend. Then she told me she liked Karen Allen's character a lot. I didn't, but
Character, yeah,
character a lot.
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't, but I kept my mouth shut.
Uh,
The Hague said it was in the novelization.
oh, okay, okay. I was in the novelization. Well, the what about your favorite villain? You have a favorite villain from the series?
Ooh.
And you could even say, without giving anything away, if your favorite villain's in the new one, that's fine to say that. I just don't want to know anything about the new one.
No, I'm not going to go there. I'll keep it.
Okay.
I'll keep it. I'm just going to keep it to the 4.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go with that's a good question, and I didn't really stop to think about it. Well, I'll tell you one thing: it's not
There's a lot of
Temple. It
villains.
wasn't
Yeah.
Temple of Doom. I thought Donovan was a
Hmm.
good villain.
Julian
Um,
Glover. Yeah.
Julian Glover, and I also thought Belloc, because it was almost like
Yeah.
Belloc was the evil, was everything that Indiana Jones wasn't. You know what I mean? It was
Hmm.
like they were this. I mean, he even says it. He goes, you and I are alike. We're like almost like the same person. And then Indiana is, he's drinking because he thinks Marion got killed, and he goes, now you're getting nasty. But it really it is. It's like he's
Yeah.
the dark side of what Indy is. I mean, everything. They're
Yeah.
both archaeologists. They're both knowledgeable in their field, but it's just that one is out for one thing, and the other is out for another. And
Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of parallels there and a lot of contrasts. You
yes.
know, Yeah, Indy's like all scruffy and kind of dark, and
Mhm.
Belloq's all clean and white, and yet he's the villain, and Indy's
Right.
the hero. And I think, and of the movies, I think that one plays it the straightest. You know what I mean? It's like a real movie, even though it's a comic book, even though it's a serial,
Mhm.
adventure. The characters are kind of real. They're kind of at least rooted in reality. I the one I think I had the most fun with was probably Ronald Lacey as Tote, the
Oh,
villain,
right, 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 right.
because he
Yep.
did such a good kind of a Peter Lorre kind of thing. Um,
I,
that scene where he walks in with the coat rack, where you think it's like the
yes.
nunchucks or the torture device. I mean, that's just a gas, and his laughter and everything. The thing is,
Well,
I've
I think
seen,
I was going to say
yeah,
I know he's not out there tonight, but I think if Joe Brickman was watching, I think he would agree with you. I
yeah,
think that was like his favorite character because even when we did the when we did Omelet, it
right,
he was trying to mimic that character so
yeah.
much.
He was so
But
slimy and such a
yeah.
sadist, and it's funny. I always assumed it was him on the plane when Indy gets on the plane. Did you know that that's actually Dennis Muren, the special effects
No.
supervisor, visual effects supervisor? Because he has the Coke bottle glasses and he's
I
got the
thought that
light
was him
coming through.
too. That wasn't
Like,
him?
no, it's Dennis Muren. That's
I mean, I
it's a
know who Dennis Muren is, but I didn't realize that. I thought that was Tote,
yeah, Ronald Lacey. Yeah,
Ronald
yeah,
Lacey.
it
I'm
wasn't.
gonna have to go
Yeah,
back and watch that, Ross. I did not know that.
I
Now,
think everybody thinks it's him. Yeah,
were they trying to make you think it was him?
I don't think so. I think that they just did a bad job distinguishing the two of them. Who knew that Dennis Muren would look so much like Ronald Lacey when they put the
Wow.
glasses on him and the hat?
Although interesting enough, I when I was doing some research for the show, I did come across a picture of Ronald Lacey, and he looks totally different than he did in the movie.
I always recognize him though. I just saw him on an Avengers episode. The old ones with Diana Rigg and
Sure.
Patrick McNee. And it's funny because you can totally tell it's Tote. He's got the same voice and everything, even though he doesn't put kind of the German accent in there. He just always kind of, and I think he may have been in Zulu or something. I remember seeing him in something, other British movies.
Well, let's share some photos with the folks out there. So just and this is
Are
from
we talking too much?
no, no. Let's This is from Raiders of the Lost Ark. So
There
just
you
want to
go.
share. And there's Ronald Lacey. There's Tote on the
Yeah,
right, and there's
yeah.
Marion Avosline. I love the shadows too. The
Oh
photography
yeah,
in this movie. I mean, it's it's like what do they say? An homage to the 1930s movies.
sure, sure. And I love the
It's,
shot in that scene when he leaves the first time, and
yes,
they've got that kind of that grid that on the door. It's not a grid; it's a kind of an ornamental uh, thing. And then when the light comes through, it hits Indiana Jones right in the eye when you go see you tomorrow, Indiana Jones, and he pauses in the door, and you just get the light on the eye. So
and
I
then
don't
the
even know
door.
how you plan a shot like that. It just worked out so well. Yeah.
It really really did. And then
Yeah.
there's Sala and the
So
monkey. We forgot about the
nice
monkey.
movies.
The monkey made that was a villain in the movie that was so
Yeah.
annoying. He just
I
wanted
know.
the there's Belloc.
Right. Now, did he or did he not eat the fly in that scene?
I think he ate
Pauline
it.
Kael seems to think he ate the fly.
I think he ate it.
Do you think he ate it, or do you think it flew off and it just didn't register on camera?
I think he ate it.
Wow. I wonder if somebody must have asked him if he actually ate it. He's still alive.
There you go. There's a Star Trek connection. It's not the Star Trek connection I have that where we say all roads lead to Star Trek. The
Yeah.
Trek fans out there, here's a Star Trek trivia question for you. What episode was there a fly that an actor had on their face during a Star Trek episode?
Was
What
Jeff Goldblum in it?
what actor and what what episode? No, Jeff Goldblum was not in it. uh,
The time that Captain Kirk transported with a fly. Yeah.
Now, interesting enough, Harrison Ford reportedly did most of his stunts for this movie, and the only one I believe that one of the ones that he did not do, of the very few that he did not do, was when he actually is going underneath the truck. But that's him being dragged. But when he goes directly underneath, Jack Daly's got it. You got it, Jack. Paradise Syndrome. Yep.
There you go.
Good job.
Help!
Yeah. Yeah, we were waiting, Paul. We were waiting. The egg, the one with Spock. Yeah, you remember that when he's getting dragged under it and they
Of
photograph it
course.
like, yeah. I mean that, and then he gets back on.
That whole sequence is just brilliant. It's just such a. It takes like the old movie conventions and just totally brings them up to date because they would never be able to film a scene just like that back then, and yet they had people going under stagecoaches and teams of horses and things just like Indy would do in the westerns all the
Right.
time, and that's just such a virtuosic scene from
Oh,
beginning to end. Yeah.
Gary Boyer. Gary's coming with some intel. He says
Uh,
Paul Freeman did not eat the fly.
there
Oh,
you go.
thanks,
So
Gary.
at last, 42 years later, I've got this settled. Thank you, Gary. I'll look that up later.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Gary. Um,
Kirk is a fly in the face.
yep. Ronald Lacey was in the Adventures of
Mm.
Buckaroo Banzai across the eighth dimension. Oh, okay. Yes, and Warren is saying that was a stuntman I remember from the TV special. Great movie stunts.
That
Yep.
wasn't like, is it Frank Dearlove? I can't remember who his stuntman was that did that. And if you look closely, they dug a little bit of a trench between where the tires of the truck go, and you can see when he goes under, it's kicking up all kinds of dust, which is great. But he's in a little bit of a, because they don't want the truck to kind of bounce and mess him up. Yeah. So, but it's a great stunt.
It really is. I mean, it's like full around. He gets on the truck and then he gets knocked through the window and then he falls down and then he goes under and then he comes back and then he's just, yeah, it was just
and I miss simple, well done stunts like that, and where you're actually watching the stunt instead of like the things constantly cutting at different angles, and then they dress it, gussy things up with computer and make it all, give it a patina, give it a tint, make it dark, and it's like, come on, I just want to see a car chase and some stunts. I want to see people really doing stuff.
Colin said, I've read that was inspired from the film Stagecoach.
Yeah, because he goes. One guy jumps on the team of horses there and goes under the coach. Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't swallow the fly.
Perhaps he won't die. No, don't count on it. He'll die.
The making of Raiders had a comparison of the sequences in Raiders with the great chase scenes of the 1930s.
Yeah.
I think I remember watching that. That was many, many moons ago. I'll have to go back and check that out. Christian just said, maybe Spielberg is a Sergio Leone fan. If you remember Jack Elam in the opening of Once Upon a Time in the West playing with a fly on his face.
Yeah, when he puts the fly on his gun and puts his finger over the barrels and he listens to it buzzing around in there. I mean, what a fortuitous thing, because again, it's before computers, and they managed to catch this scene at the beginning of Once Upon a Time in the West with Jack Elam, where it was an actual fly just walking on his face. And you can't train a fly. Maybe they put something on his face. I don't know what the story is behind that. If it was just fortuitous that a fly landed on Elam and they went with it, or they just covered him with, molasses. I'm sure Jack Elam always had molasses on his face anyway. It's true.
I wonder if any flies were ate in the spaghetti westerns. They were thousands of them. Yeah. Too funny.
It's where they got their protein.
Yeah, there you go. And then, of course, the final scene of the movie.
Right. Which was something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close your eyes. Don't look at it, Marion.
Yeah.
So intense. And then, of course, the end scene.
The ironic ending.
Yeah.
All that. Yeah. Right.
Looked after. It's being researched. The
and
top
the
men
bureaucrats, it's being looked after by top men.
What kind of men? Top men.
Who, of course, was William Hootkins, the actor. He was one of the pilots in the X-wing in the last battle in Star Wars.
He was, but interesting enough, the other guy who was Colonel Musgrove. Now, this is where I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here for a second. So that was
because the other one's Major Eaton is Hootkins, right?
That was a great lead in. So let's do this. We, earlier instead of going all roads lead to Star Trek first, we're going to go to all roads lead to Space 1999. So,
Mm.
um, four actors there. First one is Suzanne Roquette. She was in the first season of Space 1999. She was Tanya. The second character in that image is a news announcer, and that was the scene was from the first episode of Space 1999 Breakaway when the moon blows out of the Earth's orbit, and Alpha is catching a newscast in regards to what just happened on Earth. The third photo is Darwin, the character of Darwin King from Dragon's Domain on the Ultra Probe. And the fourth character is Professor Hunter, who is in the episode Bringers of Wonder, Part 1, and he's also seen briefly in Part 2, and that's from the second season. Now, who they were in space or in the movies, yeah, Warren's asking, wait, who's son Suzanne Roquette? Yes, Tanya Alexander. The first time, Suzanne Roquette was supposed to be in the third movie, and unfortunately, her scene was cut, and she was playing a film director named Lemmy, and I'm going to butcher this
Oh,
last.
Lenny Riefenstahl.
Thank you.
Really? Okay. Okay. She filmed Triumph of the Will. She's like the big Hitler glorification of the Third Reich. She's, all those images you see with the big banners with the swastikas and the
Yep.
sea of people in the troops in perfectly symmetrical form in the black and white. She's
Yep.
the one that the twisted genius. The talk about somebody who had a lot of talent that just totally went down the dark path. But yeah.
She died. She was like 101 years old too.
She's an amazing.
Yeah.
I have a book on her in the other room. I should. What am I going to do? I'll hold it up for you. Here's Lenny Riefenstahl. Nobody cares.
But Spielberg and Lucas were very fascinated with her, and what they did was they actually filmed a scene that was in The Last Crusade, and it was taking place, I believe, when it was taking place during the whole burning of the books and everything that was going on.
Right.
And they filmed it, but it never made it into the movie. Now, I don't know if it turned up on the deleted scenes list so you can see it. I'm suspecting that it did not, because I was trying to scour the internet. I knew she was in the movie, Suzanne Roquette, but I can't find any images of her portraying that character, and it's really a shame too. But she was cast, she was filmed, and she would have been in it. So there's the first connection right there. The second fellow is Don Fellows, and he is the you were referencing the other guy that was in the Star Wars movie,
right? William Hookins.
Yes, and he was opposite him playing the Colonel Musgrove in this. And then Michael Sherd, who was in Dragon's Domain, he actually plays Adolf Hitler in Last Crusade, but he's not in the credits. I mean, a lot, who wants to be credited for playing Adolf Hitler, right? So
Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway,
or Mo Howard. Yeah.
Or Mo Howard, yeah. And then the fourth image is Billy J. Mitchell. Now, he was in Bringers of Wonder Part 1 and Part 2, playing Professor Hunter. Now, there was this, he was playing the character of Dr. Mulberg, who actually had a backstory in in Indiana Jones, I believe. In Raiders of the Lost Ark. But his scene was cut, or that they had actually intended on. But you can see him in the background, and I guess what happened was he had lost some artifacts in Mexico. There's a reference to it. I believe it's in the novelization. So there's the Space 1999 connection, at least for those first four actors and characters. And then there's also the other one, in which we have Jarek from Alpha Child. We have the alien from War Games, and then we also have the and I can't think of her name, from Journey to Where, and Carla, and that she was on Earth in the future, and they are respectively played by actors Julian Glover, who played Donovan, and then Mrs. Donovan at the dinner party, and that was Isla Blair.
Does he do an American accent in this one? He doesn't do the British. He's not.
He doesn't do. No, he doesn't do British. No.
Yeah.
So that's the Space 1999 connection, folks, and that I thought that was pretty cool. And I may have missed something out there. I'm sure if I did, somebody will post about that. And then also there's also a Star Trek connection, and Felix Silla was in
Priscilla.
Scylla rather, excuse me, was in the movie, and he he was not in the movie, but he was a stunt double for I butcher his name, for a short round. Kihu
Really?
Kwan, yes. And
I
what
didn't know
happened
that.
was
Yeah.
he almost drowned when they did that whole
Ugh,
rafting sequence, because what happened was he got trapped underneath the water,
ugh.
and then it was a diver that actually helped him. But anyway, yeah, he was his stunt double, and of course Felix Silla was in as a
Yeah.
Pelosian in the cage back in 1964, and he was also Tweaking in Buck Rogers.
You
Absolutely,
go Tweaky.
yep.
Bitty,
So
bitty,
there you
bitty.
go.
Yeah.
There's really really cool connections with that.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah. I didn't know that.
I wish that sequence with Suzanne Roquette would turn up. I don't know. I don't think it's out there on deleted footage, but
Did
it would be
anybody
great.
else ever see this kind of cruel comedy sketch? It's an amusing sketch because it makes fun of John Williams, but this who's the one guy that nobody ever wants to make fun of because he's like universally recognized as a really nice guy. But there's a comedy sketch that some show did where John Williams just comes across as a total pig, and he gets in a composition battle with his wife, and he's because he's working on a musical cut. It's for the wedding of Short Round and an Ewok. I remember.
Oh my god.
So he's like tightly wound about this, and he like challenges his family to a composition contest. They all have to come up with themes, and I don't know. It's a
Where
ridiculous.
is this, Ross?
I came across it probably on YouTube or the internet somewhere. I have no idea what it was. If it was from a comedy show or if somebody had just done a one off.
Oh, okay.
But maybe somebody knows what that is.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
totally not realistic, totally not John Williams, but it's funny.
Brennan commented, Mitchell was also the one who gave Val Kilmer an anal intruder in Top Secret. Oh my god, I have
Whoops.
not seen Top Secret in years. Wow.
William Hoopkins, who plays Major Eaton, actually he did go to Princeton for real. He was was he astrophysicist and Oriental Studies, I think it was, that he studied here before he became an actor. And he's in a lot of movies that we've discussed. He was in Flash Gordon. He was Zarkov's assistant before they.
Oh, sure, of course,
and,
yes, absolutely, yep.
And he's in Batman briefly. I think he gets shot pretty quickly. But he was kind of one of those faces that was flitting around. Because he was living in London, I think, at the time, and they always shot these things on sound stages.
He did a lot, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
In fact, right before he died, I think he died of pancreatic cancer. It's not something where it was like an untimely death, but at the time he died, he was all set to come to Broadway. He had done a play. I think it was Alfred Hitchcock in a play in London, and they were going to bring it to New York, and he died. He got sick before he could do it. But it got good reviews, and I think they were expecting that this might have been his breakout role. He also played Fatty Arbuckle in I don't know if it was a television movie or what it was, and he was planning to do a film of the silent comedian who got involved in a scandal, statutory rape scandal back in the 20s.
Oh,
brought his career to an end. Yeah.
Whoops.
So, yeah, it's kind of tragic. I'm not sure how much of it was true and how much of it, was just, I don't know. Look for him, do a search and you figure it out. I don't want to defend Fatty Arbuckle if he was guilty, but for some reason I think it was kind of trumped up, but I don't remember.
So you're just putting it out there.
I'm
Warren
just
is
putting it
saying,
out there. Yeah.
Mr. Williams is God, don't get me wrong, but a low point in my mind was coming up with the loose variation on the Raiders indie theme for Indie Sun Mud in Crystal Skull.
That's funny because I think that's the only good. I'm not sure if we're talking about the same thing, but on the soundtrack, the cut that's identified as The Adventures of Mutt, I think is the only good music is the best music in the movie because it feels like John Williams, probably because it's ripped off of Raiders. I don't know. It doesn't sound like Raiders to me, but I guess in some part it references the actual indie theme. I thought, what a weird bit of casting though to get Shia LaBeouf to play, like a greaser, a biker. I just totally didn't buy him in that part. You
No.
needed somebody who was rougher than at least get like I don't know, at least get James Franco or somebody who was always playing James Dean. You know. Oh, what was that? Was Shia LaBeouf blocking our frequency there?
Whoops, I hit the wrong button.
Okay.
Um,
Just like
what I was trying to put up there, I was going to say that's a perfect segue into John Williams.
uh, there he is. What do you want me to say?
We've covered
Ladies
John
and
Williams
gentlemen,
so
Mr.
much.
John Williams. What's that? Not
I know,
much.
right?
I mean, it's like what a I haven't seen the new movie yet. I had intended to see it with Roy last night. It didn't work out. I haven't heard for some reason. Back in the days of vinyl when these movies came out, the records were in the stores. You could get them. For some reason, they're not releasing the soundtrack for this until August. It's streaming. You could, of course, I'm stuck in the physical media era. So again, I'm 80-year-old Indiana Jones. If you're a whippersnapper and you like you pull your stuff off the whatever streaming service or what have you, you can hear the score. But I'm not going to listen to it until August. I'll hear it in the movie. But the theme he did for Helena is it Helena or Helena? How do they say it in the movie?
I think it's Helena, isn't it?
Helena. It's beautiful. The theme is beautiful, and if the rest of the score is on that level, it's going to be just such a treat. And hearing any John Williams in this kind of film is just a treat. I don't know how you felt about it. I didn't see the movie. Did you enjoy the score? It wouldn't be a spoiler for you to say the score sucked.
I'm not going to go. I'm not talking about the movie. So I'm not saying
All right,
anything.
you got it, folks. Roy hated the score.
No, I'm not. No, I didn't. I'm just not. I'm not talking about the movie. I'm sticking to my word.
Oh boy, but I'm counting on it being a real throwback because nobody writes music like that anymore. And I'm not really saying much about John Williams because you all know, you all know his big
Johnny Williams.
Johnny Williams. His Lucas and Spielberg collaborations, and that's what is really relevant for Indiana Jones. It is interesting when you go back to something like Temple of Doom, which again, I'm not saying it's a good movie, but there are interesting things that they did with it. The fact that they opened it with that musical number, which I understand would be a very controversial move
Right.
for people that remember the whole opening sequence of Raiders, where you have that great thing where they go into the temple and he gets the idol and what have you, and you're thinking, oh, it's going to be such a great opening. And what do they start out with? But Cole Porter's "Anything Goes," and supposedly
not what everybody was expecting.
Right, and supposedly Mandarin Chinese, and then it blossoms into this like crazy fantasy, like almost like a Busby Berkeley tap number that couldn't possibly fit in that nightclub. What she goes into that dragon's head and just this is, but Spielberg always wanted to do a musical supposedly, and that was his chance to kind of to do something like that. So that was fun.
If anything, that was for me personally, it was a throwback to when wasn't it Shawnee School did Anything Goes?
Right. We did that musical every year in our school, and Anything Goes was the one year.
Right.
But it was I can't defend the movie as being as strong as the others. But going back, I watched all of them last year. I haven't seen any of them since then. But it's fine. It's fine for what it is. I'm not going to argue that it's Casablanca or anything. It's a diverting Sunday afternoon movie, maybe. One thing that they probably, again, you're not going to spoil the movie, but now that Disney owns Lucasfilm, I assume it wasn't Paramount that distributed it, was it?
Paramount was.
Oh, they did distribute. So Paramount was there. Okay, so I'm expecting. You don't say anything if you don't want, but I'm expecting a something creative done with the logo then, because every one of the indie movies opens with the logo dissolving into a different image. So I'll look forward to whatever they decide to do with that. Then I was afraid we were just going to get like some kind of Snow White Castle or something, and then we'd have to go into Indiana Jones.
Yeah, what they did with that in the first movie and the second movie was pretty cool. And like you said, they did that in the third and the fourth.
Yeah.
Warren,
You got the gopher in the fourth one. Yeah, the prairie dog.
Temple has the best curse by Indiana. Oh, SHIT.
Wait a minute, they had that back in the 30s.
Anyway, so folks, we are going to start to wind things down a little bit. If you want to post any last minute comments, please
Yeah,
do so.
I
And
realized I talked a lot, so get some comments up there.
yeah, go ahead and post away. This was definitely a fun discussion, and I very much enjoyed it. And we could probably talk for hours about all of these movies, but especially the first one. I mean, it really just hold a really special place. Okay, so while you're doing the posting and putting your thoughts together, we are going to go to the shout out portion of the show, bringing you creative awareness through our shout outs. Ross, I think I just get a lot of fun just saying that because it's your
Yeah.
reaction to that statement.
Yeah.
Anyway,
not too self-aggrandizing. Yeah.
One thing, Dan is saying your hat dominated the entire show.
There you go.
Damn you, Ross.
Stole everybody's thunder.
Or actually your hat, I should say. Anyway, Sci-Fi Distilled, they discuss 80s, 90s, and beyond television and movies. They are on Wednesday nights. Mike and Mary Beth, they will be broadcasting next Wednesday, I believe, July 5th at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Stay tuned for their episode. They do not know what they are doing or did not know what they are doing as of Wednesday. So you can catch them on Facebook. And again, it's Sci-Fi Distilled. Country Gate Players. Bill is out there. My friend Bill's out there. And Country Gate is back. They are doing their next show for the season. And it is Snoopy. And it is between the weeks of the dates of July 29th and August 6th. For information, you can go to countrygate.org, or you can visit Bill's website, which is www.billscorado.com. And for information in regards to the ticket information, you can visit the website. And again, that is going to be between July 29th and August 6th, and it is Snoopy the Musical. I want to give a shout out to Captain Phil's Planet. Captain Phil broadcasts on WUSB 90.1 FM in Stony Brook, New York. The captain's schedule is on alternating Thursdays from 3 to 5 p.m. and also Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. Also want to give a shout out to the owners of Studio One Thrift, which is Snow and Martha. Actually, it's an exciting time for them because they actually have a physical location that is going to be opening up shortly. So if you go to their website, it is www.studioonethrift.net, and they will give you information in regards to signing up on the website. They have quality, stylish, affordable clothing for men and women. And you can also receive styling tips and informational updates. Just go to your website and be sure to subscribe. And Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got going on.
All right. Yeah, I encourage people to follow my Facebook page at Classic Ross Amico because there's been a lot of stuff going on. My shows were dropped from WWFM, the Classical Network. I'm not even going to mention them anymore. But they can be heard on this station KWAX. Quacks. They take the name from the school mascot, which is a duck, the Ducks. the University of Oregon is broadcasting my shows. So unfortunately, the Picture Perfect, the movie music show, is on opposite Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi. It's a 3-hour difference between West Coast and East Coast. So we start at 7:30. The film music show starts at 7 o'clock. So we're kind of overlapping. Lost Chord, the unusual and neglected repertoire, that's at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and that is unusual classical music. This week I'm focusing on Ernest Bloch, who was a Swiss composer who came to the United States, became an American citizen. He actually died in Portland, Oregon, which is only 2 hours from the radio station that I'm on out there at KWAX. So I'm playing a piece of his that ties into the 4th of July, the Independence Day holiday, and it's called America. It's a rhapsody he wrote, and it incorporates a lot of American sounds and folk music and that sort of thing. And it's a special recording. It actually features the composer. He talks for about 6 minutes before the piece starts. So if you ever wanted to hear Ernest Bloch speak, tomorrow night's your chance on KWAX. You can just Google Quacks, or you go to my Facebook page at Classic Ross Amico. I'll be writing about it in the morning. Anyway, I'll keep you posted. There are some other irons in the fire, and there's something that might pan out. I keep waiting for it to pan out. I thought I'd know by this week, but I can't talk about it yet. So,
well, fingers crossed, Ross. It sounds like there's
thanks,
something
Roy.
good that might be coming your way. So, and then obviously
Yeah,
it'll be coming our way. So,
yeah. At least another way for you to hear me. Yeah.
cool, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, and also
Ah,
since the next, if I can get the slide to stay,
what is that?
wanted to take the time because the next show that we'll be doing will be after the 4th of July, which happens to be your birthday and the country's birthday. So first, want to wish you, Ross, with everybody on, a happy birthday almost, because
Thank
it's
you.
only it's literally going to be 4 days away from today. So very cool.
Literally. Yeah.
So
Thank you very much, Roy. That was a surprise.
yeah. So
Yeah.
happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
Ross, since you are
Yes.
my friend, I will not sing to you.
Do I get to blow out the candles?
Yeah, you can blow out the candles up.
Oh, wait, they're not lit.
But anyway, happy birthday, and
But I am. Thank you, Roy.
and you are. What's crazy is I remember back in, what was it, 1976, when the country was 200 years.
Oh, yeah.
Now the 250th birthday is going to be coming up of the
Yeah.
country. It's
We're
crazy.
barreling down on that. I've got to do some major reading for that. The Princeton Battlefield's right here. I might be able to become a docent. I'll become like the go-to guy for Princeton Battlefield.
There you go.
Act like I know something. Because nobody knows anything in this town, right?
No, nobody.
Let's
does
go to
that.
Ross.
He's the point person.
He's the point person. Yeah.
So, just to let everybody know, if everything goes right, this Sunday, I will be on with my dad, Ron, and my son, Ryan, and we will be discussing episode 198, which is It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Here it is. So It's a Mad, 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 Mad World is celebrating its 60th anniversary. The film came out in 1963. I've always loved this movie. I remember watching this when I was a kid because I remember my dad introducing this movie to me on television. And my dad loves it, and so does Ryan. So there we go. So we're going to have some fun with this. I'm really looking forward to having them on. And yeah. It's a stretch away from sci-fi, but that's okay.
I'm coming for you. There was a big W. Yeah, I'm coming for you, Mama. Yeah, Dick Shawn.
Dick Shaw.
Dick Shawn. Everybody's in that movie. Yeah.
Oh my God, that movie. Yeah, it's if you haven't seen it, check it out. It still holds up to this day, and it's old style humor, but it just really resonates and strikes home.
If you've seen Spielberg's 1941, this is like the total prototype for that kind of comedy. It's kind of like, Bigger is supposedly funnier, where they just bring in so many comedians and destroy so many things.
So I'm going to go through the comments real quick. Let me see here. So Gary said, fun fact, Joseph Stanley Williams, John Williams' son, was the frontman of the famed band Toto during the first two albums.
Yeah. Oh. And his dad, John Williams' dad, was part of the Raymond Scott quintet or sextet, I guess. Or they were quintet because they didn't want to have sex in the title. There were 6 of them, but they were a quintet. But they did the music that they always use for the Daffy Duck cartoons. That's John Williams' dad's on the drums, in the original.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that piece. That's hysterical.
Yeah. Powerhouse is the name of the piece.
Powerhouse. Oh boy, we get shut down. I
Yeah,
remember that specific tune. Gary
yeah.
also said you haven't mentioned the amazing point and click adventure game from LucasArts, Indiana Jones and the Fate of
Oh,
Atlantis from
so they did
1992.
a
Great
yeah,
film.
they did a game based on that because I know they were kicking around at some point a screenplay for Atlantis, and it never, I think they didn't agree on it, so it never came to fruition.
Let me
We don't
see.
have any more time, but I mean, even the originals, even the movies that got made went through so many changes before they got to their final
Right.
film
Dan
form.
Dan says hopefully this resurrects young Indiana Jones. And
Well, I
then
mean,
Gary,
look at me. I give you
he's
the star.
there you go, Ross.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. Yeah, it was fun tonight. And Dennis, take care. Thank you, Dennis. Hope you have a good weekend. Oh, don't mess with short round, Roy. Ford never got an Oscar. Nice.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. Let's see. Just found the website for KWAC's
Oh,
website.
thank you. Thanks. Yeah. So tomorrow night at what is it, 7 o'clock? I guess. Oh no, wait. Yeah, 7. I get mixed up. Just look on the schedule.
There
It's
you
a
go.
3-hour time difference, so I'm always screwed up about it.
Dan's saying happy birthday.
Thank
Thank.
you.
So is Jeff.
Thank you.
So is Sue.
Thank you.
That's right, Canada too.
Yeah,
That's right,
July
Canada
1st.
Day.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vince. Glad you enjoyed it. And Vince is saying happy birthday, Ross.
Thank you, Vince.
And Christian. Yeah, amazing cast on that film. I agree. In regards to
Tony Morrison lived here too. Yeah. We got a lot of folks here in Princeton.
the big W.
W.
Yep. My goodness.
Wicked Witch of the West, get up. There we go.
Here
And
we
you're
go.
pretty dog too. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's in the cast except for Don Rickles. But anyway. Oh boy. Matt, where can use the following invitation to the show? No guest has ever imploded during our broadcasts.
No, I don't think it's really too soon, Matt. Too soon.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lou.
And just going through.
Thank you. I feel like I'm holding court now. Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
We usually don't go through all the comments like that, but it's your birthday, Ross. I wanted you to see everything.
That's very nice. Thank you.
Folks, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for being a part of our show. Hope you really enjoyed it. And Ross, before we sign off, any last words, any last comments?
Why do I never think ahead with this stuff?
And I always ask you.
Yeah, I know. It's like you always take me unawares every week. What? when do we start this? Yeah. It's only 200 episodes. What?
Yeah, actually, you know what? Good point, Ross. That's a good note.
Yeah,
we are coming up on 200 episodes very shortly, and that'll probably be in the latter part of the month because we are going to be taking some time off. So stay tuned. Want to make that special, so just put it out there, folks. What would you like to see? Well, let me ask you a question. What would you like to be included with the 200th episode of this show? I can't believe 200 episodes. That's insane.
Let me know how many people say Goliath and the Vampires.
Anyway, you can post it here, or you could IM message myself, or if you want to IM message Ross, or IM message both of us, or if you just want to comment, let us know. You better let me know too, though, because Ross will tell me he got 100 messages saying that it's for Goliath and the Vampires.
They all came through, Roy. It's unanimous.
Yeah, Omega Man again. Warren is saying multiple $1,000 giveaways. Yeah, and Monopoly money. And Christian is with you, Ross.
Okay, thanks.
All right. On that note, live long and prosper, everyone. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Take care.
Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye.